The motion that we're about to debate is this House believes that TV is dead to young people, and as Ben mentioned, this is being hosted by DebateMate. So DebateMate is a social enterprise that's been running since 2008, and it employs top university students as mentors going into disadvantaged schools and teaching them the skills of debating. And the scope is genuinely international, so there's 270 schools in the UK and 60 in the US and Caribbean. And when I first met Margaret McCabe, who's the founder in this extraordinary jumper, she wasn't wearing that, but she should have been. It would have caught my eye. I came across their work when I was trying to sort of galvanise young people into voting before the election with varying degrees of success. I was really taken with the ambition and also the success of DebateMate in giving these skills to young people of sort of confidence and creativity and be able to think on their feet and present themselves incredibly well in any situations that I think are really vital skills, particularly in the 21st century job market, and especially, in fact, in the creative industries. So that's what DebateMate does. That's the idea. This debate itself is centred on this question of young people and their viewing habits of television. And basically, no one really knows. So you can read headlines in the same week that will say, young people hate TV, young people don't even know what TV is, and then you can say, actually, young people are still watching TV. So it's quite, it is literally up for debate. And so hopefully this will be not just a series of assertions on both sides of the argument, but also an exploration of why the relationship between television and young people is where it is, wherever that might be. Before we move on to the debate itself, just to say that DebateMate's work was the subject of an excellent Sky One show, Kings and Queens of Speech. If you enjoyed this afternoon, do check that out on Catch Up. Annoyingly, I've got to go and host another session now because it's with one of my employers, so sort of no choice really. So I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Ben, who's going to chair this debate. And actually, it will be a lot better for it because I can never remember the rules, whereas Benedict absolutely can. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Rick. So as Rick said, the debate today is this House believes that TV is dead to young people. On my right, we have the proposition, they're arguing for the motion. On my left, we have the opposition, they're arguing against the motion. And you guys get to have your say after the first two speakers from both sides, and have your say again at the end when you vote to see which side has won. Before we begin, we can do a little preliminary vote by show of hands, whether you agree with the motion or not. So do you think that TV is dead to young people? Raise your hands. The two young people at the back are raising their hands. And if you don't think that TV is dead to young people, raise your hands. Okay. Putting your existing views aside, it would be great if you could listen to the debate today with a clean mind and vote at the end based on who you found the most persuasive. Now, each of the speakers here will have 3 minutes to speak. You'll see me do a random clap after 30 seconds, which signifies that the other side can stand up and interject with something called a point of information. And again, I'll clap at 2 minutes 30 to say that that time is ended. And 3 minutes, I'll clap twice to bring the speakers to a close. And if they carry on after that, I'll ask my CEO to throw a chair at them to make sure they take a seat. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the first speaker for the proposition. Can people hear me if I don't use the mic? This is Kiana. Kiana has just finished her A-levels. She is going to do a gap year working for DebateMate before going on to study law at the LSE. She's been involved with DebateMate since she was 12 or 13, so all the way down here. And her debating highlight is that she made the England Development Squad, which is the top 16 debaters of her age group in the country. And I've asked all of the speakers to give me their favourite TV show, and hers is Power. So give it up for Kiana. Oh, and just very quickly, as a disclaimer, I've arbitrarily put these people on the sides that they are. They don't necessarily mean what they say. They've been forced to take a stand. And as someone who's made their life in TV, sitting at the end arguing that TV is dead to young people, you see that a disclaimer is necessary. So without further ado, over to you, Kiana.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Ben said, I'm Kiana, and I'll be the first speaker for the proposition on the motion that this House believes TV is dead to young people. So before we start getting into it, I'm just going to define what we mean by young people, so opposition don't try and get sneaky. By young people, we're talking 16 to 24. We feel like that's a good age, and as I fit in that age gap as well, I can tell you the truth about TV and why it is actually very much dead. So I'm just going to give you one statistic and just tells you that in 5 years, there's been a drop of 18% of young people watching TV aged 16 to 24. And that E4 and BBC Three apparently have seen a 10% drop in their viewing from young people too. And that just shows me already that really and truly, young people are no longer watching TV like we used to. So I'm going to give you 2 points today. One, that there are so many different other avenues that TV just isn't the place to be anymore. And number two, that we just don't have the time to sit down with our mums and dads and catch up on what's going on in EastEnders or Emmerdale. We would much rather be doing something elsewhere. So number one, the other avenues. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard of Netflix. You've heard of a YouTube series. I know some of you might watch it and tell people you don't. I know people no longer have, no, thank you. We have so many things that we'd rather do and rather watch that we don't have the time to sit in front of our smart TV or our Samsung and sit down with our mums and dads and watch TV. We'd much rather join a YouTube series where we can look at all the comments, get a bit juicy, tell the person that the owner of the YouTube account, I really like that series, can you give me episode 2? Send a little email where we have control of what we want to watch and how we want to watch it. And that's why we're saying that TV is simply dead to young people, because there are so many other things and other things we can watch and how we can watch it, that TV just doesn't have that place in our hearts anymore. And quite frankly, as I said, Power is my favorite TV show, and I don't have time to wait for E4 or anyone to buy this TV show and watch it. I would much rather live stream it, check it out, stay up till 2 a.m., do whatever I need to do to watch something that I truly enjoy, yes.
Why do you think YouTube series are better than TV?
YouTube series are better than TV because we as young people have a say in what we want to watch. Sometimes it reflects us. We can actually engage in comments. We can really get into that YouTube series. Sometimes if you're lucky enough and you're great, you can even star in the YouTube series. With a TV show, you just simply can't do those things, Iffy. And that's why as a young person yourself, you should know that TV's dead, because I know you watch YouTube series too. So, on our second point, we want to talk about the fact that the content available, it just doesn't work anymore. We feel that under 16 still have content. They may have Disney Channel, may have Nickelodeon, but when you hit a certain age, the variety of content you have just isn't there. You may watch Misfits for a season and then it goes. And then what do you have to watch? Then you have to pretend or sit down with your 7-year-old nephew and watch Amazing World of Gumball and hide it to your friends because it's something you enjoy, but there's just nothing there for you to watch anymore. And this is why, as side proposition, we are here to tell you that TV, unfortunately, as much as it hurts us to say, is dead to young people now. And there are far better things we'd rather do with our time. And for those reasons, we beg you to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiana. And now we cross the floor to the first speaker from the opposition, who is Matt. Matt recently graduated with a Master's in Human Rights from the University of Edinburgh. He's also the European University's debating champion, so he's the best debater in Europe. See if he can match an 18-year-old. And his favourite TV show is, and I didn't put him up to this, Kings and Queens of Speech. All right, round of applause for Matt.
Okay, so there seem to be two questions that we have to answer in this debate. First of all, talking about TV, the box that actually sits in your living room. And secondly, TV in terms of the content of the stuff that we actually watch. It seems a weird dichotomy to put in, but this is the dichotomy that they've decided to choose. I'm going to now win both of those arguments for you today. Okay, so why is this a weird dichotomy? Because why is it that TV content ceases to be TV at the point at which you watch it on Netflix? What about if you're watching Netflix on your TV? Does that now count as TV? I mean, really, how is that any different from recording a show and then watching it 5 minutes later? The two seem qualitatively exactly the same. Secondly, she advances this idea of choice. She says, oh, there's just no choice for young people in TV anymore. I mean, really? I mean, we now have more channels, we have more shows, we have more avenues for watching TV than we've ever had before. You can now watch HBO, Netflix, American channels, European channels, like with great ease. The rise of smart TVs, the rise of TV on the internet has meant that there's a huge amount of choice. No, thank you. For shows that you could watch anywhere. Okay, so let's look at this first question then. Do we actually physically watch the box that is in our sitting room? I mean, the answer is still overwhelmingly yes. ThinkBox did research on this last year and found that 65% of the stuff that we as young people watch, which is that 16 to 24 age bracket, is still watching the TV on the screen. Why is that? Well, it makes sense, right? If you're going to watch, for example, football and you have your friends around, you want to watch it on a large screen. If you want to watch something which involves, like decent audio quality, you want to watch, for example, the X Factor or The Voice, you're going to want to watch it with something with decent speakers. There is still a use for the TV itself. It is still better than the laptop that you might take with you upstairs. Secondly then, for 2/3 of viewers of primetime Channel 4 shows, they are still 16 to 24-year-olds. Yes, we might be watching TV in a different way. We might not be watching TV necessarily at the time that we're supposed to be watching it. We are not following the TV schedules as religiously as we once were. But we're still watching that TV content, and we are still overwhelmingly watching it on the box that sits in our living rooms. Secondly then, content. Yeah, go on.
You make a good point about the TV, but we've seen with technology itself that people are making more phones that are bigger, iPads, iPhones, laptops that are huge, because people don't have time to buy a huge TV when they can get a laptop and do everything on it at once.
But, I mean, people do still watch the TV, right? I mean, that is just proven by the evidence that I just gave you. Furthermore, it's not clear to me why watching TV on your phone or why watching TV on your laptop doesn't really count as watching TV as well. I think we win on both counts there. And secondly, is content even made for young people? It obviously is. Look at the amount of effort that every time a new show comes out, they put into social media. They know that a TV show can live or die based upon the response that you get from social media. That's why The American Office became so popular in the United Kingdom, is because it was being shared on social media here. People know that the youth market is not only incredibly important because we have lots of free time and we waste lots of time not studying and watching TV, but also because we can share and we can an incredibly reactive market. You can find out very quickly what young people want by looking at their responses on social media. That is why we are no longer dead. We are not dead to TV companies. We are not dead to media companies, and that's why TV is still incredibly important for young people.
Thank you very much, Matt. And I'd also like to point out that these 6 guys hadn't met each other until today, and they've only really formulated exactly what they're going to say between themselves for about an hour. That's the skill of debating. That's why we did it that way. So to carry on the debate for the proposition is Nelson. Nelson was formerly a member of the network here at the Guardian International TV Festival. He was a recipient of a Channel 4 Aspire Award and was also a BAFTA Young Next Gen. BAFTA. I'm doing this without notes.
Sort of.
And he's a freelance researcher at the moment, and his favourite TV show also happens to be mine, which is The Wire. Over to you, Nelson.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted to come at this from a production point of view, because while everyone speaks about, well, you spoke about young people getting content made for them, which I don't believe they do, because what we perceive as young people's content is very arbitrary. We consider content that, for example, like Skins, drama, but we do not actually consider any factual content that is made for young people. Nor do we consider specialist factual, nor do we consider anything else of that matter, but that's neither here or there. What I will speak about is in terms of young people's...
What about Vice documentaries that you get on HBO? Those are the most popular documentaries you can find on the internet at the moment, explicitly made for young people.
Which is not made on TV. Okay, as I continue. Young people are not part of the production process in terms of editorial input. So you come in as a young researcher, you have a great idea in your development meeting with the head of development. He takes your idea, says it's a great idea. You come into the office, you think, okay, I'm going to work up this idea and I'm going to put it to your commissioner. Not exactly. What happens is you work up their idea, You give them your idea, it becomes something that they change, take to the commissioner, who is also about 50 years old, worked in the industry for about 30 years. He then says, well, this is a great idea, but I would like to add a 60-year-old presenter to it. So essentially, the idea that you put forward for a young person has now become an idea, just like any other idea. By the time you get any editorial content, you've been in the industry for maybe 10 years, and you're not young anymore. Thus, your idea will never be young. It's not fresh, it's not risky, it has no bashfulness to it, it has no energy
Point of
to
information.
it. Sure.
So BBC Free Speech did a lot of work during the general election targeting young people and doing mass campaigns for young people. That was on TV, wasn't that made for young people?
And how old is the exec that made BBC Free Speech, or the producer, or the APs? Okay, I continue. Essentially, the young people that we aim to make programming for are not the people making the programs. They're never part of the process. They never have any input in it. There's no drive to get that. There's no consultation. There is just people making programs that are young, and they have a young skew on them, which might be a bit of social media on the bottom of it, or maybe a little yo in the middle of it. There is no actual intent to have young people actually make programs that they enjoy, with the variety they enjoy, not Top Boy, which appeals to some people, but not everyone. And young people all around the country have different tastes, which are not catered to. So I believe that would end my discussion, and I would like to say TV is dead to young people because they're not at the heart of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelson. And just a quick reminder that after the next speech, we're going to come over to you guys for your questions and comments. They won't be responded to directly in a Q&A style, but instead the two summary speakers will address some of them and try and get the theme of the room in their closing remarks. Before that, I'd like to welcome Emerald. Emerald is an assistant producer at 2-4. She studied philosophy at the University of Cambridge. She doesn't have any debating experience per se, but she did tell me that she once convinced a man to belly dance on TV for 15 minutes, which takes a lot of persuasion and convincing. And her favorite TV show is Parks and Recreation.
Okay, so I'm arguing that the TV industry is not dead to young people, and I'd like to just completely disagree with what Nelson said. It's not an old industry, it's a really young industry. It skews really young. About half of all people in the creative media industries are under 35, and the biggest sort of percentage group is 20% of people are aged 25 to 29. So the people working in TV aren't as old as Nelson makes out. And I'd actually argue it's harder to be old in the TV industry, especially if you're a woman. Women over 50 make up just 7% of the TV workforce and only 5% of presenters on TV. So I'd actually argue it's way harder to be old in the TV industry. And so my first point is going to be that far from being dead or closed off to young people, the TV industry is really open and in fact desperate for young people to get involved. And to say that it excludes young people is to really ignore the work done by a lot of schemes, charities and companies who are giving placements and opportunities to them. I had a look online and the youngest entry age for a scheme that I could find was just 8 years old, and that was at Sky, which is great, but kind of terrifying. As a 25-year-old, I've got like primary school kids after my job. So just to give you a breakdown of the schemes, there are those offered by channels, such as apprenticeships offered by all the major channels. There are those offered by production companies, like internships. Declined. There are charities and other organisations, and in fact, Nelson and I both benefited from one of these. So the Edinburgh TV Festival runs 2 schemes. Nelson was on the network, I was on the Ones to Watch scheme. And look at us now. We are having the time of our lives. We are debating in a hall. We are living the TV dream, and that is all thanks to a scheme for young people. And so my second and final point is one that I don't think is made often enough. Okay, I'll accept it, Nelson.
So you have been in the industry for how many years, and how much editorial input do you believe you have?
I've been in the industry for about 4 years, and I think I have quite a lot. I've worked in development in companies, and I've actually seen my ideas on screen. I've worked on a show where we were, for example, convincing a guy to belly dance. That was an idea I came up with the director, and then we saw it on our TV screens. So I think a reasonable amount of editorial input there. Yeah, so my final point is one that's not made often enough, and I've just titled it, TV is fun. Far from being dead to young people, it's one of the most alive and vibrant industries out there. It's all about new ideas and the next big thing. Channels and production companies crave and reward young minds who have fresh perspectives and new takes on worlds and territories. I think the best TV is created when you're having fun, and who is better at having fun than a young person? Literally no one. So it takes a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and a sense of play to be involved in the TV industry. So I'd argue that far from being dead, it's alive, kicking, and it really is powered by young people's brains. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emerald. And now we come over to you guys. There's some roving mics. If you'd like to have say something, or you've got a question for either side, please raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, and if you'd like to say your name and who you work for or what you do, that'd be great.
Hi, my name's Sam. I'm a games designer who works at Endemol. And the kind of fundamental issue I have at the minute is using the word dead, which kind of implies that there's nothing we can do for it and it's on an inevitable kind of like downward spiral. But I think one thing that you guys have kind of been saying is that, and I think that people in this room would agree with, is that we all want to adapt, and I feel like we can adapt. And one of the things that I think you're kind of saying is that you can't do that, and it's just inevitably going to fail and die, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think everyone's here to kind of, this talk particularly, because they want to make a change and adapt to the situation at hand.
We used it because it's slightly sexy. Is it kind of on the rocks? It would be quite a long caveated type.
But I suppose my question is, do you not think it can adapt and use all the kind of lessons from YouTube and Netflix to kind of synergize in a kind of way?
Thank you very much. If you could keep them quite short, just so we can squeeze everyone in. We've only got 10 minutes left. No.
Quick observation or question to all 6 people on stage. What does everybody think the average age of a Facebook user is? Above 30 or under 30?
Thank you. And what's your name? And
sorry, I'm John Nolan from Apollo 20.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Yep.
Hi, Rose Marley from the Sharp Project in Manchester. Just picking up on Nelson's point, I think you have to value experience of older people. I work with a lot of young brands. I work with JD Sports, I work with Lego, I work with Top Trumps. You know, JD Sports is the biggest youth brand in the country, and the marketing director's 50 plus, but he's good at his job and he listens to his audience, so I think you're a little bit unfair.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yep, right at the back.
Tyler Martin from ITV. The people that are saying they think that TV is dead, do you actually want to be courted by TV again, or are you done with it?
Any more? Could probably take 1 or 2 more. Yep, the gentleman there.
Hi, I'm Ben Armstrong. I'm head of development at CBBC. So I can't really comment on the 16 to 24 age group, but we're very aware that it's a bunch of adults making TV for kids. So we visit hundreds and hundreds of schools to what we call step out our ideas. And we've recently set up, similar to an Amazon model where they do their pilot season. We've got something called CBBC Presents now, where we'll post tasters on the website, and kids can respond to those tasters and give us their feedback. So, as I say, I can't comment on 16 to 24 age group, but we're very aware that we're adults in a kid's world, so we do look for feedback from kids.
Okay, thank you very much. And last one.
Gordon Eldridge, I work for Mediacom, so coming from a media side of things, how much do you think that the avoidance of TV by the youth market is actually just an attempt to avoid advertising? So the Netflix and YouTube opportunities often enable you to stream whole programs without the breaks. How much of that is an appeal versus the actual programming that's on?
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who made a contribution to the floor. Now what happens is we reverse the order, and the opposition summarise first, and then the proposition close the debate as a whole. There won't be any points of information. in this part of the debate. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Iffy. Iffy, again, has been with DebateMate since he was 12 or 13. He's just about to enter year 13 at Bridge Academy in Hackney. He's won every DebateMate competition there is. He's even won university-level debating competitions when he was in year 11. He's a youth advocate and an activist, and his favourite TV show, although he did tell me he doesn't really watch TV, which makes it interesting, he's too busy to watch TV, is a show called Awkward, which I've never heard of. But over to you, Iffy.
So the 21st century is a revolutionary time in data, in digital. Ideas are coming more and more, and things have changed. What we're going to tell you is young people move with those changes and are the best at being adaptable and making use of new services. So essentially, I'm going to say three things. Firstly, what is TV? I think it's important to say what TV means, because if you don't know what it is, you can't have a debate about whether it's dead for young people. That's something they wanted to sneakily try and get away from. Secondly, the idea of, like, does TV help young people as an industry? We're going to tell you yes. And finally, is the content geared towards young people? So firstly, what is TV? So, like, let's use common sense. If I'm watching a TV channel on my TV, it's just not TV, I'm using it through Netflix. Why in the world is that not TV, right? They're going to give you the smallest examples of what TV is, right, to give them the best chance of winning the debate. If I'm watching Netflix, even if I'm watching TV on YouTube to stream it, I'm still watching TV. We had a great discussion here about, like, adverts. Often if you're getting away from the adverts, fair enough, but if you're still watching TV and other things, you are still watching TV, which means at least the content of TV is still massively being watched by young people. But we think even the TV box, is still used. When I'm going to watch football with my friends, I will always watch it on a big screen. I will still watch Match of the Day, because they're just things, like we said, that you can't get from the laptop. You get better qualities often on TV. Most people, young people, don't have their own personal TV, but at least will watch their one in their household daily, right? We think young people are watching TV. It's just they're watching it in different ways, and adults can't understand those ways, because essentially they haven't moved on with the times, but young people have. Then this idea of, like, is the industry made for young people? Okay, let's see what they said. They basically said, oh, the CEO of a company is 60, which means there's no help from young people at all. Is that true? Reality. The reason why people in the top jobs are old is because they have the most experience. It is a sad fact. I don't want this fact to be true. I think I could do a better job than most CEOs. But essentially, on their CV, they look a tad nicer. We do think there are a lot of programs which go and help young people. Social media has revolutionized the way we get data from young people. Every TV show which is geared at young people had people who literally work just on social media to see if young people are responding positively. They start hashtags to see what is trending, whether young people like it. When Pretty Little Liars released Who Is A, actually the backlash, because loads of young people didn't like their announcement, caused a massive storm in the TV industry. Yet the TVs care about young people because you can't not care about them because they're the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iffy, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome our final debater. She doesn't really need any introduction, but it's Sarah Gator. She's the COO of All 3 Media, was previously the CEO of Fremantle UK, and while taking the world of TV by storm, she's found time to cram in a law degree and is also a qualified barrister, and her favourite TV show, she caveats with at the moment, is Orange is the New Black. So over to Sarah.
So this is coming from one of those old executives in television, okay? But actually, television is so dead when you're young. And it's so dead that they've had to adapt it so you can watch it on other devices and that you can watch content in other ways, because television's just not doing it anymore. Young people between 16 and 24, and I count my children who are slightly younger as well in this, do not want to watch adverts. They obviously do want to go and sit and listen to JD Sports about how they do get into adverts, but actually they don't want to watch it on television. They have no input into TV. I think that's true. They don't have any serious input into how television is made. There are a number of reasons for it. The law won't allow it, or it's incredibly difficult. You know, it's just really, really tough on them. The big shows on television, Country File, Bake Off. I mean, you know, are 16 to 24-year-olds going to be glued to that? I'm not sure they are. Games. kids love playing games. I mean, that age group, playing games, you know, there's 101 games out there. They're all doing really well. They make a fortune. And the reason they make a fortune is because time is limited for this age group, as it is for everybody. And what do they do with their time? They play games. And they want to do things. So I would argue very strongly that TV is dead to young people, that young people just aren't out there anymore, and that the television programmes aren't there to be seen. There aren't, for this particular age group, there aren't really. There's younger stuff with CBBC, brilliant programmes. But when you hit this age group, television's not there, they're not watching it, they're watching on their computers, they're in their bedrooms playing games, and that's where it's at. And I think I'd like to say, with one final part, which is that there's a great thing which says the more control that people have over their media, then the more time they spend with it. And I think that's something that television really needs to start to listen to. So my argument would be, TV is dead, and God knows what I'm going to do next week for a job.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And just very briefly, because I know that time is up, I'm going to give the stage to... Oh, before that, we can do a quick vote. Did anybody change their mind throughout that debate? Does anyone remember? Okay, so I think based on that, the opposition take the debate today. So well done. Do you want to say something? So I just welcome our CEO, Margaret McCabe, literally for 1 minute, so I don't get shouted at.
It's literally for a minute. I just want to say thanks for coming today. DebateMate, we teach debating in really deprived areas, but we do a lot more than that. We have a lot of supporters from the media industry, which is why we're here. People like Peter Bazalgette from Endemol is on our board, Jon Snow, Christian Guru Murphy, Emily Maitlis, Oprah Winfrey. All these people have said to us over the time that they would never be where they were today if they didn't learn to debate. And it's a perfect skill for this industry, and we have all the big broadcasting companies coming to us all the time wanting to employ our kids. So the commercial break here is that we teach these skills. We do use the money to run our charity, but if anyone wants to be trained, anyone who needs to pitch, think quickly on their feet, be funny at the same time, these are the skills that we teach, and it works incredibly well. We've also do a lot of casting. We have thousands and thousands of kids that we teach. We teach over 6,000 kids a week in our program in the UK. We've just done there's a Barclays ad coming out soon on how to use social media. That was all us. They got us in to teach them how to talk to children, to find out what the issues are. So we do a lot of that sort of thing, which if any of you ever need access to those sorts of skills, those sorts of training, we do that. We did all the training on free speech for the BBC. We do tons and tons of stuff in the industry. And the way we teach debating is that it does teach creative thinking and ideas thinking, which is absolutely key to your industry. So thanks for coming today. Thanks for listening.